Hi everyone! Today we're going to explore how animals, including humans, are alive and active. We'll be comparing three types of hearts: a cow heart, a sheep heart, and a pig heart. Each one is similar in structure, but each also has unique features that match the size and needs of the animal it belongs to. Okay, let's start by looking at the three different heart specimens. So this is a cow heart, this is the pig heart, and this is the sheep heart. So the most striking difference is the size. You can see that the cow heart is actually huge relative to the other mammalian hearts. And the reason is that the heart size scales with how big the animal is. So the first step when you're looking at these hearts is trying to identify the front, back, bottom, top, right, and left. And when you're looking at these hearts, you'll see that they have a lot of features in common. So the main feature you can see is that the heart has a pointy end. That's called the apex of the heart, and it points downward. And at the top, you can see that the heart is flattened out. And that's called the base of the heart. And the base of the heart is going to point up. So next we want to identify front and back. And this can be a little trickier in some of these specimens after they've been removed. And so one of the key features that I find is trying to identify these appendages that are at the base of the heart. These are called the atrial appendage or auricles. And that word actually also means ear, and they kind of look like floppy ears. And you can see that each of these hearts have auricles that are floppy ear-like structures, and these always point toward the front, and that's the biggest clue as to the front of the mammalian heart. So another big clue is if you look at these hearts, you will see a line in a diagonal direction down the front of the hearts. So each of the heart has it. This is the pig heart, and this is the sheep heart. This is called the interventricular sulcus or groove, and this defines the septum of the heart that separates the left side from the right side. And this groove here, right side, left side. And then the same groove in the sheep heart, right side, left side. We are now going to start with the pig heart. The pig heart is fascinating because it's very close in size and structure to a human heart, just a little bit bigger. This similarity is one of the reasons scientists study pig hearts for medical research and even for possible organ transplants. And this is related to stuff you have previously learned about solving medical problems using technology and science. We are now The mammalian heart is divided into 4 chambers. There are 2 chambers on the right side, 2 chambers on the left side. The top chambers are called the atria, and the bottom chambers are called the ventricles. We're going to walk through each of these chambers as we dissect this pig heart. It's a little difficult to tell in looking at the external anatomy where these chambers are. So we're going to start with the top right chamber, the right atrium. So we have this heart facing front. This is the interventricular sulcus. So we know that the right-sided chambers are over here. This is the base of the heart with the auricles or ears pointing toward us. So we know that this is the top part of the heart or base of the heart, and this is the apex. So I'm going to start with the right top chamber or the right atrium. I'm going to stick my finger in the ear or in the auricle, and then I'm going to make an incision or a cut rather, from the top of the auricle to its pointy tip. And I'm going to open up the right atrium. So here you can see a cutaway of the right atrium. And I want you to notice that there are two different parts of the atrium. So you can see this part with the muscular portion. Those are called pectinate muscles. And then you can see the smooth-walled portion here of the right atrium. Those are fused together to form the right atrium, which we have opened up. So we've opened up the right atrium, and blood would return from the body through the vena cava, which is identified here. It's been cut away. It flows into the right atrium, which is on the right side of the heart. It's the right top chamber. And then blood crosses this valve here that you can see me pushing my finger down toward. That's called the tricuspid valve. That's the right-sided atrioventricular valve that separates the right atrium from the right ventricle, which we're going to identify next. The easiest way to identify the right ventricle is to push your finger through the tricuspid valve and into the chamber that is immediately after it. And that represents the right ventricle. And you can see my finger kind of making an indentation in the right ventricle. And I'm now going to take scissors and cut through the right ventricle and open it all the way up. We've identified the right atrium and the right ventricle, and now we're going to identify the left-sided structure. So after blood leaves the right ventricle through the pulmonary artery, it would return from the lungs to the left side of the heart. And so the top chamber of the heart is the left atrium. You can see the left appendage or auricle here. And so we're going to take this side, and then we're going to open up the left atrium, just like we opened up the right atrium, making a cut all along the left side. And that exposes the left atrium. So we've opened up the left atrium that you can see here, and there is both a muscular portion with pectinate muscles and then a smooth wall portion that are fused together to form the left atrium. And the left atrium is separated from the left ventricle by this valve called the left atrioventricular valve or mitral valve. So we're going to make a cut here in the left ventricle, and it's very thick, so I have to apply a lot of force, and I'm making sure to get my finger well out of the way of this. It's just barely enough. You can see how thick and beefy the left side of the heart is. See the inside of the ventricle, and look how different the wall is from the left ventricle compared to the right ventricle. Very thick, very thin. This is because the pressure in the left side is very high compared to the pressure in the right side, or that goes to the lungs. So after a considerable more amount of cutting, I have the left ventricle opened. And again, I want to emphasize how thick the left ventricle is relative to the right ventricle. The left ventricle pumps blood to the body, and so it is pumping under higher pressure. Now, underneath the ventricle here, you can see these string-like structures. These are called chordae tendineae, and they actually connect here quite nicely to the mitral valve, which separates the left atrium from the left ventricle. And so these chordae tendineae support the mitral valve and prevent it from leaking blood backwards when the heart squeezes. So we've opened up the left ventricle fully, and you can see the connections, the chordae tendineae of the mitral valve to the left ventricle. The last structure on the left side is the aortic valve. So when the heart pumps, blood flows out of the heart to the body from the left side. And you can see that right here, where my finger is the aortic valve. So blood flows from the left ventricle out the aortic valve through the aorta, which is the large tube that carries blood to the body. So we're going to recap the blood flow through the mammalian heart. So this is a fully dissected pig heart specimen. And so on the right side, blood enters through the vena cava into the right atrium. It flows across the atrioventricular valve on the right, called the tricuspid valve, into the right ventricle. The right ventricle is relatively thin-walled because the pressure is low. Blood pumps out of the right ventricle across the pulmonic valve to the pulmonary artery. Blood flows to the lungs and returns to the heart into the top left chamber called the left atrium, which you can see here. Blood flows across the left atrioventricular valve, also known as the mitral valve, into the left ventricle, which is a thick-walled pumping chamber that pumps blood to the body. It pumps blood out the aortic valve to the aorta, which is the large tube that carries blood to the body. Now let's look at the sheep heart. So as you can see, it's smaller but almost structurally identical. Sheep are a much smaller mammal, so their hearts don't need as much pumping power, but the organization, the chambers, the valves, and the vessels are the exact same pattern. And so let's walk through the sheep heart. So the right side of the sheep heart is shown here with the right atrium. Blood passes through the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle and then out the pulmonary artery. Blood returns from the lungs to the left side, to the left atrium, across the mitral valve into the left ventricle, and then out the aorta to the body. So the pig heart, as our example, this is the left ventricle of the pig, the pumping chamber to the body. And look at that thickness compared to the thickness of the sheep heart. So this is a much thinner wall compared to the pig, and that's because the sheep is a smaller animal and pumps much less blood flow than the pig. So here we have a cow heart next to the pig heart, and you can see that the cow heart is just massive, and this is related to the size of the animal. Cows are so much bigger than pigs. We're going to walk through the structures though, which are very similar between pigs, sheep, and cows. So the right side of the heart is shown here. This is the right atrium. Blood flows from the body into the right atrium and then across the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle, which is the pumping chamber here for blood to go to the lungs through the pulmonary artery, which is shown here through my finger. Blood would then go to the lungs and return to the left side of the body into the left atrium. Blood flows across the left atrium, across the mitral valve, into the left ventricle. Part of this has to be cut away to show the cavity of the left ventricle. Blood is then pumped out the left ventricle into the aorta. It's such a long distance that I can't put my finger all the way through, but my fingertips are touching, showing blood flow from the left ventricle to the aorta. So this shows the open left ventricle of the pig and the cow. And you can see the difference in wall thickness of the left ventricle. The pig heart, while thick, is nothing compared to the cow. Look how thick that is. Blood is having to be pumped to a large, massive creature, and so the left ventricle is adapted for that and is very thick-walled compared to the pig, which is a smaller mammal. So what makes these hearts different in size and shape? Well, they all are similar in that they're mammalian hearts with the same vessels and chambers and valves, but they're different in their size based on the breed and genetic factors. So environmental factors can also play a role, including diet, activity level, and habitat. So all of these can affect how much the heart grows and how thick and strong it becomes. For example, a farm-raised cow will have a larger, more muscular heart than a smaller, less active animal because it has to support a bigger body and a higher blood pressure. Remember that all the body systems are integrated together. The heart doesn't act alone. It's controlled by signals from the brain through the nervous system. For instance, when a sheep senses danger, sensory receptors send that information to the brain, which instantly tells the heart to beat faster and faster. That prepares the animal to run or to fight. Over time, the patterns of activity affect heart health and conditioning, just like in humans who exercise. Scientists and engineers use what they learn from animal hearts to create medical solutions for humans. One of the major things that has been created from animal hearts is prosthetic valves. So all of the valves in the heart, including the aortic and mitral valves of both pigs and cows, have been used to create prosthetic valves or fake heart valves that can be used in humans who have valvular heart disease. So, even though a cow heart, pig heart, and sheep heart all do the same job, each one is slightly different and specially adapted to the animal's body, size, genetics, and environment. Together, they show how all living systems and the cells within them work as a team to keep life going. Next time you feel your heartbeat, think of it as your own built-in remarkable system that keeps you alive and thriving. So,